So, again, responding to President Obama's National Prayer Breakfast, where he said that Christians have also done terrible things throughout history, so we shouldn't be on our high horse and just be against Islam. He mentioned slavery as well, not just the Crusades, but slavery here in the U.S. and Jim Crow days. Now, Tucker Carlson, Huckabee, and some other conservatives are going to say, no, it wasn't the Christians who did slavery. Really? Who was it? The Buddhists? Okay, no, it turns out the Christians saved us from slavery. Oh, do tell.
Who ended slavery in Jim Crow?
It was
Christians.
completely inappropriate.
The Reverend Martin Luther King. Christianity is the reason we don't have slavery in the world today. I mean,
Well,
talk about
and think about
ahistorical.
Jim Crow laws, as if it was Christians who were responsible for racism in America. I think he's forgetting that it was the Christian movement led by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who resisted racism, and many of the most staunch voices that helped to bring this country in a whole new understanding of racial justice were voices from the pulpits.
Whatever justification may have been given for slavery by so-called Christians, it was because so many Christians objected to the institution from the very beginning.
Many of them were the ones who brought the conscience of the nation to get this right. The same thing with slavery.
But it was Christians who were constantly objecting to the institution of slavery.
It wasn't the Christians who did slavery. All right, look, I'll give him one thing. Of course, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was a huge part of the civil rights movement, and he was most definitely a Christian. And were there good Christians who fought against slavery? Absolutely. Were there good Christians who fought against Jim Crow laws? Absolutely. And were they a big part of the movement, especially in the latter days? Yes. Now, but to claim that because of that, it was Christians fighting against slavery all along, it wasn't the Christians who did slavery, is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. What happened? The Muslims moved to Georgia and Alabama and did slavery? I'm pretty sure it was the Christians. If I wasn't sure, these pictures would kind of let me know that, perhaps it was. You remember the Klan, of course? I think that they had crosses. I'm pretty sure they were burning. Oh, look at that. It says Jesus saves. How is that for a nice Christian picture? All the Christians did was to try to prevent slavery and discrimination. Perhaps not. Now, the reality is, it wasn't just the Klan after slavery. It wasn't just all the lynchings and the Jim Crow days after slavery. It was Christianity and the Bible that justified slavery in this country. Now, look, slaves are held by all the different religions throughout history. Again, it's not just a Christian problem. But here in the U.S., it was definitely Christians who did it, and it was definitely Christians who used the Bible to justify it. That is an absolute historical fact, no matter how much Fox News tries to describe it. And you might think, if all you've heard is the flowery side of Christianity, and here in America, all we hear is Christianity is awesome, Islam is horrible, Islam is violent, Christianity has all the right things. We should take Christianity literally and the Bible literally. Well, they did take it literally, and oftentimes actually historians believe that biblical literalism came out of the times when we held slaves in this country. It was used to justify slavery. Now, how could that be? Doesn't Jesus say that he loves everybody and turn the other cheek and be great to your neighbors? Well, the Bible also has these quotes. However, you may purchase male or female slaves from among the foreigners who live among you. You may also purchase the children of such resident foreigners, including those who have been born in your land. You may treat them as your property, passing them on to your children as a permanent inheritance. Now, they are merciful, though. When it comes to Hebrew slaves, there are different and more lenient rules. Now, if they're non-Hebrew slaves, like perhaps Africans, you can do anything you like to them. But let's find out the rules for Hebrew slaves. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he is to serve for only 6 years. Set him free in the 7th year, and he will owe you nothing for his freedom. If he was single when he became your slave and then married afterwards, only he will go free in the 7th year. But if he was married before he became a slave, then his wife will be freed with him. So, according to the Bible, if he got married while he was a slave to you, you get to keep his wife for a while. But the Bible would never justify slavery. Let's go further. If the master gave him a wife while he was a slave, and they had sons or daughters, Then the man will be free in the 7th year, but his wife and children will still belong to his master. But the slave may plainly declare, I love my master, my wife, and my children. I would rather not go free. If he does this, his master must present him before God. Oh, I see. If the slave of his own accord says he loves his master and would like to stay, then even the Hebrew slave would have to stay. Gee, I wonder how many times they did that of their own accord. All right, we're not done yet with the Bible. Then his master must take him to the door and publicly pierce his ear with an awl. After that, the slave will belong to his master forever. I know we're supposed to take the Bible literally. That's what evangelicals in America always tell me. Where can I find an awl to pierce the ear of my slave in case he was a Hebrew slave and decided to stay with me after I also kidnapped his children and wife? These are things that need to be addressed. Okay, you think that's bad? It's about to get worse. More Bible quotes for you guys. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of 6 years as the men are. If she does not please the man who bought her, he may allow her to be bought back again. Gee, I wonder what he's doing with that female slave that might require different rules on whether he was pleased or not. These are not some things that were just left in the Bible and not used. These are the exact verses that were used by slave owners and by the entire South in the United States to justify slavery over and over. Hey, slaves that we brought over, adopt this wonderful religion we have. Oh, golly gee, in the religion, it says that it's okay to have slaves. Not only that, it says that it's okay to suffer on this earth because the people who suffer most here later will have great rewards. Don't worry, the rich, they won't be able to make it into heaven. Only you will. Just bow your head and be our slaves. Everything's going to be great. What religion would be perfect for that? Can't quite figure it out. If you can't, I've got more quotes for you. When a man strikes his male or female slave with a rod so hard that the slave dies under his hand, he shall be punished. If, however, the slave survives for a day or two, he is not to be punished, since the slave is his own property. I wonder if they did that in the South. Did they wind up doing that in the South? Gee, I wonder where they got that idea from. Well, as always, we have the apologists, but that's the Old Testament. First of all, yes, they used the Old Testament to justify slavery, but then there's also the New Testament. Slaves, this is from the New Testament. Obey your earthly masters with deep respect and fear. Serve them sincerely as you would serve Christ. One more from the New Testament. Christians who are slaves should give their masters full respect so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. If your master is a Christian, that is no excuse for being disrespectful. You should work all the harder because you are helping another believer by your efforts. If ever there was a religion better suited for slavery, it would be hard to find one. So yes, I'm pretty sure it was the Christians who did slavery in America, and I am positive that they used the Bible to justify it.